Okay, next lesson. This isn't too terribly hard. You have to do what's called factoring out the GCF. Okay, here's how this is going to be done. You're going to make a little horizontal box, rectangular box, and you're going to make a space, a slot with a parentheses and a times dot. GCF stands for greatest common factor. You probably heard that before. Greatest common factor. Greatest common factor. Now, you have to find the greatest common factor in the polynomial. So here's what you're going to do. You have just two terms, okay? 12 and 6. Now, before, you're going to use a multiplication table on a lot of these. Some of you might not need it, but some of you probably will, and that's fine, okay? Here's the first things you have to check for. You have to check the last term and see if there's a variable letter. And there is. Whatever letter that is, you put here. And if it's got a power, you put a power there. Now you check the front and see if there's a negative. And if there is, you're going to put a negative sign, but we don't see a negative in front. So we got to check for the letter on the last term and a negative on the first term. Now, you look at the coefficients 12 and 6. So you find the furthest row down, the deepest row were 12 and 6, excuse me. Okay. So 12 and 6. So here's 6, deepest row, furthest row down. 12 and 6 are in row 6. Now they're also in row 3 together, but I need the deepest row. So 12 and 6, that's why it's called greatest common factor. So here's 6, here's 12, so they're in the 6th row. So 6x is your greatest common factor. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go under these lines and then divide by 6x. It's like you're doing the reverse of the distributive property. So when you do the rainbows and distributive property, you're multiplying. So we do the opposite and divide. Now, we got to be careful how we're dividing these. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Okay? Then I got to divide my x's, so we know how to do that. So x2, x1. We take out the x1 and minus it. So 2 minus 1 is 1. So x to the first, we put x. So that's 2x. Then we keep that negative sign, a minus. 6 divided by 6 is 1. And then the letters, they're both the same. So 1 and 1, those just get a cancel, and then 1 doesn't have a variable. Okay? Now, put a parentheses around that, and that's the answer. Okay? So you're going to put that over here, 6x times 2x minus 1. And we're going to actually use that for something valuable tomorrow. Okay, next one. 12x to the power of 5 plus 8x to the power of 3. So GCF. You got to check for two things. You do have a variable there. It's x to the third, so you need to put x to the third. You do not have a negative there, so we do not put a negative sign. Now 12 and 8. The coefficients, there's 8 but there's no 12. Here's 8 and 12, so it'd be a 4. Okay, now you go up and divide by 4x to the third. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Then we divide the x to the fifth by x to the third by subtracting the exponent from the bottom. So I put x down, and then 5 minus 3 is 2. So x to the 2, you got to put the letter down and then put the 2. Positive, and then 8 divided by 4 is 2. Now, 3 minus 3, well, that cancels out. That's always going to just cancel on the last one, okay? You'll divide the coefficients, but you won't have to put a letter there. Okay, so the answer to that problem is 4x to the third times 3x to the second plus 2. Seems pointless in this assignment, but that tomorrow it'll 5x to the third plus 20x, there's nothing there. That's me crossing something out. It's just an x. So, GCF. Okay, check your last term. There is a variable, we put it. Check your, you're checking that front for a negative sign. If there's not one, you don't have to put it. Now, 15 and 20. Alright, 15, no 20. 20, but no 15. They got to be right there. 15, 20, it's 5. Okay. Alright, so then you go up and divide by 5x. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. Then I divide my x third by my x. I put a 1 there, and then I just subtract that 1 from 3. So I write x down, and we know that 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay, 20 divided by 5 is 4, and these are always just going to cancel in the second line, okay? Because it'd be a 1 minus a 1. So we have 5x times 3x to the second power plus 4. Okay, next problem. 64x to the second minus 16x. Okay, you do have a variable there. You do not have a negative. And then we look up 64 and 16. So here's 16 and 64 is there, so 16 is the GCF. So 16x, 16x. So 64 divided by 16 is 4. And then x2, x1, I would minus the 1 from the 2. So that'd be x. 2 minus 1 is 1, and if I have a 1, I just leave it at x. Then 16 divided by 16 is 1. Now, you cancel the x's, but you don't cancel the 16s. You need to put 1. Don't just put nothing there. So we have 16x times 4x minus 1. So it's like you're doing the opposite of multiplying. You're taking the product and getting it back to a P1, P2. Okay, 3x to the fourth plus 16x. Okay. Okay, I've got a variable there, x. Okay. No negative. 3 and 16, so 3, there's no 16 in 3's row. Here's 3, here's 16, so they're just in the first row. Now, I'm going to put a 1. Really, you don't have to put the 1 because you could just leave it 3 and 16, but I'll put it there just to be consistent, okay? Then I go up and divide by 1x. So 3 divided by 1 is 3. Then I divide x to the fourth by x to the first. Okay, so I put x down. 4 minus 1 is 3, so that'd be 3x to the third. 16 divided by 1 is 16, and the x's would just cancel. So we have 1x, or x, times 3x to the third power plus 16. Okay, next problem. 5x to the second power minus 5x. You're not going to have to look at the multiplication table on this one. Explain why here in a bit. You check for the letter. You always check in the final term. You see x there. I don't see a negative there. And then 5 and 5. Now, if they're the same number, we're not going to use a table. You just need to put 5. If you have the same number, the greatest common factor is the number 5. So then you go up and divide by 5x. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 2 minus 1. It's 1, but you got to put x to the 1. Okay? And then negative 5 divided by 5 is negative 1. So if it's negative 1, you just write minus 1. Okay? And then 5 divided by 5 is 1. And then these x's here are both 1, so they're able to just cancel, since 1 minus 1 would be 0. Okay, so we have 5x times 1x minus 1. Now, if x has a 1 in front of it, you really don't have to put the 1. You can just put x. Okay, it's up to you. Okay, 10x to the second plus 10x. So GCF. I have the letter there. I do not have a negative, and then 10 and 10 is just 10. So the GCF is 10x, so I need to go divide all of my terms, all 2 of them, by 10x. So 10 divided by 10 is 1, okay? Minus 1, so I write x down. 2 minus 1 is 1, so if it's going to be x to the 1, I'm just going to leave that as an x. 10 divided by 10 is 1. You need to put 1, and then those cancel. So we have 10x times the parentheses. Now you can either put 1x plus 1, but if x has a multiplier of 1, you could just write x plus 1. It's up to you. If you want to put the 1x there, it's fine. But if you have just a 1, it's really an irrelevant multiplier, so you could just put x plus 1. Okay, 20x is second plus 20x. Okay, x there, you bet. Negative there, no way. 20 and 20 is 20. So if it's the same number, you use that number. Okay, so 20x, 20x. Now the 20 divided by the 20 is 1. Now I divide the x to the second by the x. So it's just, I put a 1, it's just found by minusing the exponent. So I write x down, and if 2 minus 1 is 1, then I don't need to put an exponent. Okay, if it's not a 1, you'll need to put it, but it is. 20 divided by 20 is 1. Okay, then these cancel. Okay, so you got 20x times, and then you either put x plus 1 or 1x plus 1. It doesn't matter. Okay, either one's good. Okay, final 4. Negative 4x is second plus 20x. GCF, so you got the variable. Now you have a negative sign, so you insert a negative then right there. And now you look at 4 and 20. So here's 4 and here's 20, so it'd be in row 4. So that's your GCF. So when I go up and divide, it's got to be negative 4x. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. Okay? And then x second divided by x of first, we just write x down. And then 2 minus 1 is 1, so I can just write x. Okay, 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. So if I got a negative, I now write minus 5. Don't put the negative, just write that second one as a minus. Then we know that these cancel. So I've got negative 4x times, and then you can either write 1x minus 5 or just x minus 5. It doesn't matter. Having a 1 as a coefficient really means it's just x. Okay, negative 6x to the second power plus 21x. GCF, so do your letter check, you got it. You have a negative, so you insert a negative. That's why I'm always checking that front for a negative. Then I go to look up 6 and 21. Here's a 6, but there's no 21. Here's a 6, here's a 21, so it'd be 3. Okay, so that's your GCF. There's your first P. Now you go up and divide by negative 3x. So negative 6 divided by negative 3 is positive 2 there. And then x second, x first, we'd subtract the 1, so it'd be an x. 2 minus 1 is 1, so we don't need to put the exponent if it's 1. 21 divided by negative 3 is negative 7, so then you write that in the form of minus 7. And these cancel. The second ones cancel. So we have negative 3x. This time you do not have the option of writing x, because now it has a multiplier of 2, so it needs to be there. So up there I said you could just put that as x minus 5. You don't have that option here. Okay, negative 3x to the second power minus 6x. Check your last term for x. Negative. Okay. Then 3 and 6. Here's 3, here's 6, so we're going to put a 3. So now I go up and divide by negative 3x. Remember how to divide this. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. X second, x first, so I minus the 1, and it's x to the 1. then that is a negative 6 divided by negative 3. Remember, if it has a minus in front of it, that's a negative value. Well, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so it'll be plus 2, because 6 divided by 3 is 2, and then these cancel, because that's actually negative 6 divided by negative 3. Okay, don't put the 1 there. So you got negative 3x times 1x plus 2. Okay, last problem, negative 20x to the fourth plus 30x to the second. We have a variable there and it's to the second power, so we're putting x to the second. We do have the negative. Now in between the negative and the x, I need to look up 20 and 30. Well, 30 is not in the 20th row, so I go up, here's 20 again, 30 would be a 10, okay? Now I go up and divide by negative 10x to the second. Okay, negative 20 divided by negative 10 is positive 2. Now you subtract, write your x down, and then you take x to the fourth divided by x to the second. It's x to the something. But when I minus 2 from 4, 4 minus 2 is 2, so it's x to the 2. Then positive 30 divided by negative 10. If it's a plus, it's a positive value. If it's a minus, it's a negative. That one's a positive, so it's going to be negative 3. So then we write that as a minus 3. These cancel. So we now have negative 10x to the second times 2x to the second minus 3. There we have it.